So,
I'm gonna.
good evening. And for those of you who don't know me, welcome. My name is Alan Kaiser. I'm chair of the University of Evansville's Department of Archaeology. Welcome to what will be the last for this calendar year of our Art and Art History Alumni Lecture Series. Before we get started, let me ask everybody to please mute yourselves so that none of us interrupts our speaker. I'm sure none of us want to miss what she's going to say. Tonight we're in for a treat. We have Candace Summers, a graduate from the University of Evansville with a Bachelor in Arts in Archaeology from 2002. She's got an MA in History from Illinois State University. She's currently the Senior Director of Education at the McLean County Museum of History in the lovely city of Bloomington, Illinois. She's been working there for 17 years. That's almost as old as some of our students. Tonight she's going to be telling us about the work that she and her colleagues do at the museum, including some of their aims and the challenges they face. So Candace, take it away.
All right. Well, thank you all for having me tonight. Nice to see some familiar names on the screen. So I'm going to hope that technology works nicely for me and share. Oh, I need somebody to enable the screen sharing for me. Oh.
Yeah, try it now, Candace.
Okay, thanks. Oh, there we go. Awesome. Okay. Thank you. Oh, now there's a toolbar in my way. Oh, there we go. Okay. So like Dr. Kaiser said, I have been at the McLean County Museum of History for 17 years. I actually started as an intern there in 2005. I started at Illinois State University to get a master's in history, not knowing what in the world I wanted to do. And I didn't want to be a classroom teacher, but I had some experience from being an intern at Historic New Harmony once upon a time. And then I also worked at Angel Mound's State Historic Site when I was still living in Evansville. And I got into museum education. And I thought, that'd be cool, doing museums and making a career out of it. So why not? And so I went to an intern fair at Illinois State University and, was looking around like it's a lot of, teaching K through 12. And I happened upon the McLean County Museum of History. And I said, I had no idea there was a history museum here in Bloomington, let alone in the old courthouse. And so, I stopped by the table and learned, about what they had to offer. And they had library and archives internships, and they had internships in the education department and collections. And I said, well, I've already had experience in the education department, so why not? And I also found out that this institution put on a cemetery walk, which I'll talk about a little later. And so I, went and learned about the opportunities, and I've been there ever since. We really like to hire from within at our institution. There are a lot of people like me that were former interns and former volunteers. And so it's really cool that we are able to retain the talent that we bring in. So first off, I'll share who we are and what we do. So our mission is to educate the general public about the history of the people of McLean County and to develop exhibits and publications and programs that teach people about McLean County, and then also obviously acquire and preserve collections that reflect the diversity of McLean County. And me personally, I think we do more than just educate about McLean County. We educate people about where McLean County sits in Illinois history and how McLean County people have had an impact and influenced and made Illinois history, national history, even international history. So our impact is further than the boundaries of just McLean County. We're really a regional history education center. We are an Illinois not-for-profit corporation, and our historical society was established in 1892. We are the second oldest historical society in the state of Illinois. And our museum was established in 1903 in one room in what was then the McLean County Courthouse, which is our building. We are nationally accredited by the American Alliance of Museums since 1984, and only 3% of US museums are accredited. And I'm gonna date myself here. For those of us who know, this is like the Good Housekeeping seal of approval. We are managed by a team of 17 full and part-time staff, along with 60 volunteers and 24 board members, which is a large board for an organization of our size. We are funded by private donors and members. 70% of our annual budget is private funds, come in the form of grants, sponsorships, gifts, membership, things like that. We do get in-kind support from the County of McLean. We do lease our building from them. It's a generous lease, so they're not, trying to nickel and dime us. They provide maintenance for our building, like the new roof we got a couple of years ago, and also some interior restoration work in the form of plaster and paint from water damage from that bad roof. We also get annual gifts from the city of Bloomington and the town of Normal, and other smaller gifts from other county entities as well. And we serve more than 20,000 people through educational programs each year. A good chunk, about 9,000 of them, are students and senior citizens who receive these programs free of charge. This is our gorgeous building right in the heart of downtown Bloomington. It is our 1903 courthouse, the fourth courthouse of McLean County, right on the square. As I mentioned, it was completed in 1903. It replaced the 1868 courthouse, which was destroyed during the downtown Bloomington fire of 1900. This building was designed by Peoria architects Reeves and Bailey, and in the American Renaissance style, so definitely includes elements of our favorite architectures, Greek and Roman styles. It was actually designed to be as fireproof as possible. It utilized Indiana limestone on the exterior, Georgia and Tennessee marble, and scagliola, which is a plaster, cement, and sand material that's harder and more durable than plaster, and was used to mimic the appearance of marble. It was also a cost-saving measure to use that scagliola material, because if you used marble on the entire interior design, you probably would have doubled the cost of the building. Very little wood was used in the construction, except for doors, furnishings, and some cost. And when it was completed in 1903, it cost $472,000, which today, adjusted for inflation, would be a whopping $15 million. And these are just some of the views of our gorgeous building. The one on the top left is kind of one from its very new days, along with the one on the right. And the one at the bottom was just a cool night shot that I found in our archival collection before the dome had been restored in 2004. This is the one room of our museum in 1903. It's now actually our textiles collection room. And our society operated in this room until 1922, when we relocated a couple blocks away to the McBarnes Memorial Building on East Grove Street, which was also home to the State American Legion. It's one of the reasons our museum had quite the hefty military collection for one time, because being in the same building as the State American Legion headquarters means you're going to get veterans donating a lot of stuff. And how we serve: we preserve and share local history, we promote lifelong learning, and we host public educational events along with our exhibits. That's one of my favorite parts of my job, is that I'm always learning as I am teaching, because I'm not a native of McLean County. I actually grew up in teeny tiny Putnam County, which is an hour slightly north and west of Bloomington. And so when I moved here, I had a learning curve. I was an Illinois girl. I knew Illinois history, but I didn't know anything about McLean County history. So I had to, quickly learn these things and become an expert, because you never know what kind of question you're going to get. For example, I was doing a tour for members on Monday, and I had a gentleman ask me if the cisterns in our lawn, the water was used to feed the internal hose connections to put out fires if a fire ever broke out in the building. And I said, I don't know the answer to that question. And so I asked our former executive director, because he knows the ins and outs of that building, and found out that there are actual exterior connectors that the city fire department would connect their hoses to feed the hoses in the building to then put out fires. So you learn something new every day from this job. Our award-winning exhibits, in 2014, we began the 5-year-long process of completely renovating and updating our current permanent exhibits. When I started there as an intern, they were kind of dated. So by the time we finally got the funds necessary to start that project in 2014, they definitely were an artifact of their own right. And so we began creating what we call challenges, choices, and change. There are 4 exhibits to that theme, where it takes a people-centric focus of these exhibits. We use the people's voices, not just the artifacts on display, but we use the people themselves who made the history to showcase that history and use them to help you navigate through these exhibits so you can see like each person's experience. And the first one is Making a Home. And it's basically kind of about settlement and immigration to McLean County, going all the way back with indigenous populations who began settling this area, all the way up through modern times. And what makes our exhibits really unique, I feel, is because it features living people. Like a lot of times our temporary exhibits, our changing exhibits that we host that have a rotation of about 2 to 3 years, a lot of times you'll have living people in those exhibits, but for a permanent exhibit, that's kind of, I think, a unique thing. And so it helps educate people that immigration to our community still continues to this day by sharing the stories of our Latin community and also our Asian Indian communities as well. And this little boy, I remember the program he came with Sheridan Elementary, who's been bringing students for longer than I've worked at that museum. And he was just fascinated by the music from the 50s and the 60s that was playing when you push the little button there. And he just kept pushing it over and over to just keep hearing like Chuck Berry and the Beatles. And it was really fun. Farming in the Great Corn Belt. So yeah, in the Midwest, you got to have an exhibit about farming. And so this exhibit talks everything from, again, indigenous populations and how they, grew the crops on the land, all the way up to modern mechanized farming. You can see we could fit part of a grain bin in there, but no room for a combine in our exhibit. McLean County is still a heavily rural agricultural area, and farming is big business. McLean County is one of the top ag producing for corn and soybeans in Illinois, if not the Midwest. And so we definitely had a lot of ag innovation that happened in our history. Things from Funk's hybrids are still being used with other seed companies to this day. So we definitely had to include a ag exhibit that tells that farming story that so many people are a part of in our community's history. Working for a living, not just the Huey Lewis song, by the way, but working for a living talks about the jobs and the industry and the people who did that work here in McLean County. And it goes all the way back from what the early pioneers were doing through the railroad, all the way up to modern corporate America, particularly on the railroad. If the railroad hadn't come through McLean County, we would not, BloomingtonNormal would not be what it is today. BloomingtonNormal was fortunate because they had the right people who had the right connections in state government and living here. Get the Chicago Knowlton Railroad and the Illinois Central Railroad go through our area. And eventually we had 4 major railroad lines that all converged on the west side of the city. And that was a huge industry. They were the leading employer at that time, which today is State Farm. But that really led to a population boom here in BloomingtonNormal. This picture right here kind of shows how we repurposed this exhibit, which all of these rooms of our building had been repurposed from their original uses as county offices when it was a county courthouse. This room used to be the sheriff's department, the sheriff's office, and this is the holding cell from when this was a courthouse. And so if you were a criminal and you were brought over from the county jail before you went on trial, you would be held in this room before you were taken upstairs to your trial. A Community in Conflict is our most recent permanent exhibit that was opened. And this exhibit examines how when you bring different groups of people from different parts of the country, of the world together, you may have, and you probably will have conflict. And it explores the different conflicts and issues that have challenged the residents of McLean County over time, starting with indigenous populations, namely the Kickapoo, being pushed off the land in the 1830s, women's rights and women's suffrage, issues during the temperance battles, issues with segregation and race relations, union busting, LGBTQ plus rights, Ku Klux Klan activity in McLean County, treatment of German Americans in World War I. And it asks you questions like, who had the power in this instance? Who could choose where they wanted to work? And it tries to engage the viewer in this discourse and dialogue that's happening in this exhibit. And it's a pretty intense exhibit. It really is thought-provoking. Sometimes it's overwhelming and people need to step away, but it truly is a really powerful exhibit and very thought-provoking. And of course, being in the land of Lincoln, you could not have a museum in McLean County without a Lincoln exhibit, particularly because Abraham Lincoln spent a lot of time in BloomingtonNormal. BloomingtonNormal is the city he spent the most time in other than his home in Springfield in his lifetime. And he had many friends here in BloomingtonNormal that helped get him elected president, the likes of David Davis, Jesse Fell, Asheville Gridley, Leonard Sweat. These are all key players in Illinois that helped win him the highest office in the land. But this exhibit focuses on what he did here in McLean County, the types of cases that he tried, and also how his views and stance on the issue of slavery changed and evolved to what eventually led to the Emancipation Proclamation. So it's really an interesting deep dive look into Lincoln outside of the presidency, what he did before he became president. And if you're not local to Bloomington or can't get here, you can go to our website, makehistory.org, and take a virtual tour of our exhibits. And so I did a little screenshot of it here. And so it just takes you one by one through the exhibits. You know, you click on it, it kind of zooms through. Thanks to our curator of digital humanities, Tori Moray, who's a whiz at technology, makes me feel like a dinosaur when I'm playing around with technology. She, you know, made this happen. She worked with the technology group that helped do this 360 tour of our building. And it's, I mean, it's wow, it's pretty amazing. So I highly recommend you visit it. And, you know, on like the little dots, you can click on things and learn more about certain things in the exhibits too. Our gorgeous courtroom from when this was a courthouse. And I always like to say, if these walls could talk, the kinds of trials that were held in here over the years. I mean, I'm not just talking murder trials, you know, but the incident at Kickapoo Creek Rock Festival, an illegal rock festival that was held in little old McLean County, was a big to-do in here. But we also, this is where we hold the majority of our special events. We have speakers, we have plays, we have, you know, any number of activities in here, including mock trials. We have a lot of school groups that come here and do mock trials each and every year. One school, Bloomington Junior High School, is coming here with some of their sixth graders not too long before Christmas to put Ebenezer Scrooge himself on trial. So we'll see what the verdict is on that one. We have a hands-on discovery room on our third floor, which I like to say is for children of all ages. And as you can see, can't really see the piggy's ears, but we have pigs in there. We have a cow off screen, chickens, a garden. You can pretend to saw some wood, and then we have a little kitchen area. So you can really, try your hat on, turn your imagination on of what it would have been like on those early prairie days. Very popular with kids dragging their grandparents up them on farmers market Saturdays. Our collections area. So spoiler alert, I'm not in the collections department, but I get to work with a lot of cool stuff with the programs and exhibits we do. So I snuck in one night and I took some pictures of some of the cool things, like our big wolf's head down in the lower corner that actually was on a building that burnt down in downtown Bloomington. They were able to salvage it. The owner's name was Wolf Gresham, and so wolf's head on the Wolf Gresham building. We have almost 20,000 artifacts in our collection. The oldest artifact dates to 11,000 BCE, which is a mastodon tusk and tooth. The most recent, obviously, we have some artifacts from 2022, and literally everything in the kitchen sink. There are wash tubs back there, roller skates, drums, as you can see, basketballs, football helmets, bowling bags, household goods, military weapons, diaper pail, canes, roller skates, and so much more. My favorite artifact, which I am ashamed and appalled and neglected that I did not include a photo of, we have this really cool doll in our collection, and the doll has a secret. Built inside the stomach of this doll is a flask, because a bootlegger used to carry this doll. And if you lift the dress up, because it's a boy doll dressed like a girl, you can see it has a little spigot. And then when you lift the leg up, out pees the booze into whatever container you have to gather it in. Our library and archives was organized in the 1970s, which combined 3 collections of materials from the museum, from our genealogical society, and the local DAR chapter. It includes over 15,000 books and over 2,000 linear feet of material. It's a non-circulating library, but the collection is readily available for public use. The oldest photograph we have is from the 1840s. The oldest book dates to 1780, and the oldest document we have is from the 1810s. Over 20,000 images of the museum's own collection of images have been digitized. And we are home to the Pantograph negative collection of 1.3 million photographic negatives that were donated from our local newspaper, the Pantograph. And of that, 130,000 have been digitized, and all of those negatives that have been digitized are freely available on our website, thanks to the Illinois State Archives, who is hosting them, so that we can get access to anyone who wishes. So we have been a part of numerous history collecting activities. Our earliest one was the BloomingtonNormal Black History Project, and it was founded in 1982, and its collection spans the 19th and the 20th centuries, and it contains oral histories, photographs, portraits, booklets, articles, and photocopies related to club organizations and churches of our local Black community. In 1989, the Black History Project was affiliated with the McLean County Historical Society, which is now the repository of that project's collections. And I have to tell you, it's a treasure trove of history, this collection. And it really is eye-opening to what members of our Black community contributed to our local history. And I've become fairly familiar with it due to my work on the Evergreen Cemetery Walk, because we, always at least include one member of the Black community who's buried in Evergreen Cemetery on our cemetery walk each year. Evergreen Cemetery is not a hugely diverse cemetery, but we do our best to try to include as many different voices as we can. And so this Black History Project is truly an amazing community effort to preserve that local history. We've also worked on an Asian Indian history project. So that was one of the projects that was, just in its early stages when I first started the museum in 2005, and working with the Asian Indian community to document their experience. That community is quite large in Bloomington-Normal, mostly due to State Farm bringing workers over as a guest worker program. That community has shrunk a bit since State Farm severely curtailed their guest visa program in the later teens, but still a vibrant community. And this is one of the artifacts that was donated as part of that collecting project, a wedding sari worn by Vinjan Singh Rathod during her wedding to Vipul Ragathat at the Bloomington Consistory on May 27th, 2000. And this is currently on display in our Making a Home exhibit. We also, very early stages of our Hispanic Latino history project. That one, I believe we kind of started to kick off around 2012 when we were hosting an exhibit on Latin American culture and displays, and it was a celebration of Mexican art and culture. And so this artifact came from Amelia Del Real when she came to the United States in 1974, and then she gave it to her daughter Maria Socorro Luna Alvarez for her home. And I have had the privilege of meeting Socorro Alvarez a few times. She was very involved with the Western Avenue Community Center and worked with the museum to do an ofrenda display for several years at our museum, which we do continue to this day. Another very recent, which we began in 2018, was our LGBTQAI+ project, where we have begun collecting the oral histories and artifacts from members of our LGBTQ community. This bracelet was just in 2022 from the BloomingtonNormal Pride Fest that is held in downtown Bloomington. And I believe that festival has been going on for about 4 or 5 years. So it's been a great experience. We actually held a panel discussion with members of the LGBTQ community called History Out of the Closet, that documented the experience of elder members of that community and also shared younger members of that community too, and how they were similar and different. It was really a fascinating discussion. Oops. Rapid response collecting. So when COVID broke out and the world shut down, our museum work did not stop. And so we came together quickly and not only wanted to collect from the pandemic, obviously, but also the social unrest surrounding like George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, so many other Black lives lost in those times, around women's rights and the election results. And so we wanted to document this whole experience. And so we, started asking people, write journals, submit forms for us, document your experience with pictures. You're not going to keep your protest sign, give it to the museum. So we knew that history was unfolding right before our eyes, and it was our duty to collect it. This particular mask was actually given to me at an event we held for the 100th anniversary of the passage of the 19th Amendment right in front of our building. And I felt, since that was, a pretty important event for our community, I would donate this mask to the museum. Hands-on experiential learning is what we do at our museum, not just with the programs that we do, but the whole building is a learning tool. And each year we educate an average of 20,000 people through a variety of programs, both inside and outside of our doors. And most of these are offered free of charge, thanks to grants, sponsorship, members, and donors. That was one thing that I made a conscious effort when I started the museum, was to eliminate financial barriers for our programs. When I first started, they were free with museum admission. Now our museum admission at the time for adults was $3, and I think kids was $1. And not much of a barrier, you would think, but I found that when we made these programs free, people were more likely to attend and then later join as members or also make donations later. And to me, that's more meaningful than trying to nickel and dime people. And so we rarely charge for programs unless it's something that's a big ticket item like our cemetery walk, our History Makers Gala, things like that. Truly thanks to our members and sponsors and donors for helping keep our programs, as low cost as we can so that as many people can enjoy them. So we have field trips. They're slowly ticking back up as the world returns to normal, if there is a normal that exists out there. And it's a lot of fun. I've seen tens of thousands of kids in my time there. And you can always tell when you get that one kid who really gets it and really is interested, and that excites me. Now I'm at the point in my career where now these kids are interns who I saw when they were young, or they're, I come out and interact with them in the community and they're excited because they remember coming to the museum and how cool it was. And so we try to incorporate not just, programming and exhibits, but a craft activity. So here they're making a toy and, hands-on time in our discovery room if it's appropriate to the program. We try to make history not boring. We want to make history cool and fun while you're learning as well. But if you can't get to the museum, you can bring the museum to you. And that is our museum in the classroom program. So this is basically a loan kit that comes complete with artifacts, different themes, also has lesson plans if you choose to use them, suggested activities and additional resources. We have several kits that teachers can choose from: Great Depression, Pioneer Life and Settlement. World War II is our most recent one. We also have one on the Kickapoo Native Americans, and we have one on toys and games. We have one on kitchen gadgets, and we have about 150 blown up photographs that teachers can borrow as well. We also do a senior reminiscence program for older adults living in senior care facilities that utilize some similar kits, but tend to focus more on the things that they would recall and remember from their lives to stimulate conversation, make them think about things they haven't thought of before. Maybe they connect with somebody in their group that they might not have because they share a common experience. And those truly are a meaningful program that we do. I remember one of the earliest programs I did, and this sweet little lady came up to me afterwards and took me by the hand, and she said to me, "Honey, you bring us back to reality, even if just for a little bit." And then she kind of just toddled off, and I'm just standing there about ready to cry, thinking wow, I didn't know what we do had such an impact. And that's how I know people appreciate what we do. For the seniors, we take time out of our day. They tell us to come and visit them. For the kids, we bring the museum to them. Maybe they can't afford to come to the museum or can't get a bus. So we truly will try to meet you where you are. And then one of my most favorite summer activities is our Futures in History camp, because look, I get to do archaeology up in the corner. So all that schooling was not wasted because I'm still doing archaeology. And this has been going on since 1 year exactly before I started at the museum. So I've been to every camp except the very first one. And it teaches kids about careers using the field of history. And so in those early days, it was just a 3-day camp where we studied art and architecture, archaeology, and environmental science. It's now a 5-day camp where we still have those core pieces: archaeology, art and architecture, and environmental studies. But we also look at the law. So we do a mock trial. We also look at museum studies, of course. And we get to travel to some really cool locations now. So for those of you not in Bloomington Normal, we have Rivian, the electric car company in Bloomington Normal. And yes, we have gotten to go to Rivian 2 times now. And it's a treat. I think more so for the parents because they're jealous of their kids getting to go to the Rivian plant. What makes our camp unique is that we offer 100% scholarships to any kid who is in need. We will not turn a child away because they can't afford to attend our camp. Our camp is also very low cost, costs $150 for an entire week, and that includes transportation to multiple sites. It also includes lunch every day, snacks, and all the materials, a free t-shirt, and lots of other cool free swag too. So it's really and truly a great learning experience. And I know because I'm running into my former campers now. They're in college, they're looking at internships. One just applied to be a volunteer at our museum. So it's pretty cool the impact this camp has had on our kiddos all these years. Close to my heart is the Evergreen Cemetery Walk. The first event I saw museum related when I wasn't at the museum. This is my baby. This is something I spend a huge amount of my work year on. I probably could just do this event and that be my whole entire job. It's that intense of an event. What this event is it's a 3-way collaboration between the museum, Evergreen Cemetery, and Illinois Voices Theater. It began in 1995 as a call to action to combat cemetery vandalism, promote local history. And because of this event, vandalism is almost non-existent at Evergreen Cemetery. The work we have done has been so important, not just to our cemetery, but to all cemeteries throughout the region. We don't really hear that much about vandalism anymore. I can count on one hand the instances of vandalism that have happened at Evergreen Cemetery since I started the museum, and it's exactly 4 times. We have featured 201 different individuals since this event began 28 years ago. And that doesn't count the repeats, because some years we bring certain characters back because they have an additional story to tell. 201 unique individuals. And almost every single one of these people has a full biography on our website. So if you ever want to know who all the people we featured are, they're all on our website. When I started, they had just started writing biographies, and we were 10 years in at that point. So I had to start working backwards as I worked forwards. And I'm almost all the way back to those early years. There's 7 people left I need to write biographies for, but they're going to take a lot of research, because in those early years of the cemetery walk, they didn't do a whole lot of research on our people we feature. We do a lot more now. We are very thorough in our research. And we have professional costumed actors who portray these individuals. We work with the theater company, and we pay them to write scripts based on all the research that we find. And then we have our tour guides who also share information as well about the character, about the cemetery. And it's about a 7 to 8 minute little vignette that you see, because it's not just somebody standing up there saying, I did this, I did that, I was born and I died. They're telling you a snapshot of their life, something impactful, something important, something we uncovered about their life. And every single person's story is unique, and every single person's story is important to our local history. And because of COVID, we had to take this event online in 2020. And that kind of leads us to the growth of our digital resources. When we're all stuck at home, the museum workers were stuck at home too. So we had to start getting creative and coming up with ways that we could still engage people while not leaving our homes, while everyone was stuck at home. So we came up with activities families could do at home called News to You. We started gathering people's experiences through COVID-19. We started gathering digital resources and compiling them together. We started scanning books and other materials that we digitized so people could continue doing research on their old houses, research on genealogy. trying to, come up with as many ways to keep the museum relevant and useful while we were all stuck at home. And that included bringing our programs fully online. I remember my first Zoom program, and it was very unnerving trying to think of like all the ways that, I had to keep it engaging while we're just all staring at a computer screen. And now I feel like it's old hat now, and we still do hybrid programs. We know there's still people out there that have to be cautious, with COVID still around, but also we've reached a whole new audience of people that don't live anywhere near where we are or once lived here and still want to experience the local history. And we have definitely found that with our cemetery walk, people that once lived here, that used to come on the walk, no longer distance is a barrier, but now they can experience it through our online platform. And again, you can go to our website and check out so many resources. I couldn't even go through all the list tonight with you. Another really groundbreaking series that I had just this tiny little thing to do with. This was all my coworker Hannah Johnson's baby right here. But I'm very proud that our museum did this, and it was called Breaking Bread. And this was a way that we could really explore the different cultures that have made up McLean County's history by using something we all have in common, food. And so it was a 100% online series where we learned about different groups, and we, reached out to members of our community that could represent those groups. And not only did they share oral histories and stories from their family, but most importantly, they shared recipes and food. And so we had like cooking videos of them preparing, different meals and shared recipes. I mean, how many of us have sat around a kitchen table or a Thanksgiving table and, shared memories and stories? And that's what we wanted to try to do with this. And wonderful that we won 2 awards for this program, an AMM Award of Best Practices. That's the American Midwest Museum Association, and an Illinois Association of Museums Superior Achievement in Community Partnership. And all of these recordings are available on the museum's YouTube page, so you can check it out too and get some good tasty recipes. And as I mentioned, our cemetery walk is streaming online. This year it is free of charge. And so if you want to learn about a cemetery walk and see some of the craziness I do, plus there is a cameo of me at the end, mind you, of this year's video, you can go to our YouTube page and check it out. And I wasn't sure what to expect with our online cemetery walk when we, thought about taking it online in 2020. I had zero experience with anything video related. I was like, is this going to be boring? Is it just going to be for like history geeks like me that, oh, this is cool, I can learn it online? But it really was live theater right in your home. And it has a slight bit of a documentary feel to it because, again, as a history geek, I want to add photos and pictures of the cemetery so you can actually see what people are talking about since you're not out at the cemetery. And there's music, so it's not just sitting in silence, like you're in a real movie. So I'm going to toot my own horn. It's pretty cool. It's really exciting. And I haven't even gotten tired of watching it. And I've watched it over and over again because I had to help edit the film and edit captions. And it's still just as good as seeing it the first time in the first draft. So you have from now until November 30th if you want to check it out. And that, as they say, is that. So I will stop my screen share, but I will put my email address in the chat if you have questions. I am very happy to answer any of them.
Candace, your passion for what you do is so inspiring.
Thanks.
It may not feel like it when you get up in the morning and go to work. You might not feel this enthusiastic, but it seems like you really seem to enjoy what you're doing.
I do. I really do. It's a lot of fun. And yeah, when I get up in the morning and I'm like, man, I got to climb 4 flights of stairs to get to my office again. that stupid elevator's broken. Yeah, I'm like, some days, yeah, but no, it is. And I do a school program, or I go out to a senior center, or I fall down a rabbit hole of research, and yeah, it's pretty exciting.
What advice would you have for some of our students are considering careers in the museum field? What would you advise them to be doing now before they graduate?
I highly recommend getting an internship. It gives you a little taste of what kind of careers are out there, what you might do with your degree. Because again, like, I thought I was going to be a field archaeologist when I was at U of E, and I did Merlot Field School at that time, and I'm great digging. Like, you want me to dig you a hole? I'm great at digging a hole, but I'm not great at digging an excavation unit. I am not good at cleaning artifacts because, as Tony Tuck told me, I cleaned them too well. And occasionally broke something that I would find in a unit as well. So I am more of the history side of archaeology. And so if I hadn't done my internships at Historic New Harmony and, you know, worked at Angel Mounds, I would not have gotten my toe in the door of the museum world. And so that kind of helped me focus where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do. So I tell this to interns who come to our museum. I'm like, you're doing the right thing. You're doing an internship to help you realize, yeah, this is what I want to do, or no, I think I don't want to do this. I had a student, this is probably like 10 years ago, 12 years ago, and he was studying to be a high school history teacher. And he did an internship with us because he kind of wanted to see what are resources he could use with his students. And then a year later, I saw him at an event and I said, hey, how's it going? He's like, oh, I don't want to be a teacher anymore. That was like a big mistake. And I'm like, oh my God, you're a senior. What are you going to do? You realize that you don't want to be a teacher anymore. Oh, so yeah, I mean, internships, volunteering. If you can't do an internship, volunteer somewhere that, you know, you might be interested in that career field too. Also, for museum careers, I also encourage, you know, students to, you know, kind of become aware of the two big guns in the museum world: AAM, which is the American Alliance of Museums, and AASLH, the American Association for State and Local History. Those two, they're at the top of the game with far as trends and what's new in the museum world. So you can really learn a lot by following their blogs too. I've stunned you all into silence. Or I've scared you all away. I don't know.
I'm struck that you broke that poor guy, the teacher.
Oh, I don't know if I broke him or if the kids that were his student teaching kids broke him. I don't know.
Candace, it seems that you have a lot of very good local support. Is that a community-based broad thing, or do you have a few sugar daddies and sugar mommies who are giving you money?
So we definitely have some broad community support, although we do have a couple sugar daddies and mommies that give the museum very generously. But we have a pretty decent member base. And we, our new development director, Norris Porter, who has only been at the museum since he started during COVID, he has really kicked up the fundraising and corporate sponsorship program at our museum. He's hit the ground running with really getting the estate planning aspect of museum donation going too. So, I mean, he's just done some phenomenal things. And, you know, our recent capital campaign was a great boost to our endowment as well. And we do have an endowment. That is a big thing, support base for our museum. We were trying to think like today, I was like, how much is our endowment now? And I feel like our endowment is about $8 million, which is good. Could be better, as Norris says, could be lots better. But yeah, we have donors who just, you know, donate like $25 a year, all the way up to, you know, tens of thousands of dollars a year. So I like to think every donor is important, but yeah, the big donors are definitely very nice to have as well.
Okay.
Any other questions? Yes, I saw Stephanie. Yes, we do partner with local university on all of the above. We have a really great partnership with Illinois State University, very strong. I'm an alumni, so that helps. Actually, a lot of our staff and volunteers are alumni or retired from there. So we have a really strong relationship, particularly with the history department, but ISU really supports us well. We have a great relationship with Illinois Wesleyan Universities, the private Methodist affiliated university in our community. Both of their presidents, their current university presidents, are on our board. So that is also a plus as well. And we have a great relationship with our community college, Heartland Community College, who not only support us with supplying interns and volunteers, but also helping with exhibits. We have guest curators who are professors at all of those places, work with us all the time, or they help us with programming, hosting events there, partnering to bring speakers in, providing us with speakers. Yeah, so we are very fortunate to have great relationships with those universities as well. Good question.
What about foreign language? What was your foreign language as an undergraduate? Did you need to do a foreign language to get your master's degree? And do you ever use foreign languages in your job today?
Oh, my foreign languages skills are atrocious. So when I was at U of E, I started with Italian, but why did I stop with Italian? I took a semester of Italian and then something happened and I can't remember what. And then it went to German and I think I ended up like second year German, but my foreign language skills are just awful. I just don't have the brain wired for it. And then I took Greek because I missed out on the rotation for Latin because it's when I started as a freshman, it was second year Latin. So then I would have had to wait till I was a sophomore to get first year, but then I already took Greek and yeah, my foreign language skills are atrocious. I don't use them at all. And I wish my brain was wired for that because I feel like I could really, it would be useful if I knew Spanish because we have a large Spanish speaking population in BloomingtonNormal. And we're really trying to connect with them more, particularly since we started doing the Dia de los Muertos ofrenda every year and Day of the Dead programming. Yeah, it would be useful. I know it would be very useful if I had foreign language skills. Yep.
Did you have to complete one for your master's degree?
No, I did not. Nope. And also insider info at Illinois State University, if you want to get a master's in history, they do not require a GRE score. So I dodged that bullet too. It's very thankful I did not have to take that test. So thankful.
Candace, I just wanted to ask, you talked about having internships at Angel Mounds and also at New Harmony, I think, right? Can you tell us more, like, I know it's been a while, but like, you know, some of the specific things, I guess, that you got to do as an intern while you were still a student that you really see made you think differently, I guess, about, you know, kind of going into museums or open your eyes to like, you know, the possibilities, I guess, the different departments, like, I don't know, like just some things, I guess, that you got out of that experience.
Yeah, so I interned twice at Historic New Harmony, and then I actually worked at Angel Mounds for a season. And at Historic New Harmony, it was just me and the site manager, Jean Graham Lee, managing like 7 properties there. And one of the every week that I was there, I had to go to each property, you know, unlock it, unarm it, and go in and take humidity reports, temperature reports, check the traps for brown recluses. So I'm, you know, doing, you know, collection care management of all these sites. And then she also gave me a big inventory project for one of the collection rooms. But for being a junior in college, I was like, what have I gotten myself into? There's I'm just put in this room with this list of artifacts on a paper, and now I have to find them all. And it was very intimidating, but also at the time I was like, this is so boring. What am I gonna do with this? But I just kept, plodding along. And I realized, later on, I was like, this was a really valuable internship for me to kind of like really make history real. It's not just all a bunch of, programs or, exciting things like, Indiana Jones finding whatever. This is real. You have to do the everyday stuff to care for and protect our history. And it helped me, become more organized and more detail oriented, because you had to like look for every last little thing on that list, like turn everything over in that room to find all these things. But then also, like managing sites, and at one time my site manager was out on medical leave. So it was just me, an intern there by myself. And so that was really intimidating too. But yeah, and then when I was at Angel Mounds, that one was really where I got my hands dirty with museum education, where I'm, trying to, teach kids about Mississippian period Native Americans when I knew like nothing about them myself, because I studied classical archaeology, and trying to make history fun and be respectful of the people that once were that site, and also try to teach people about the historic nature of the site, not just the, indigenous populations, but also the family who owned it, and things that happened afterwards. And so that, really helped me see a new aspect of history, where it wasn't just being a teacher in a classroom or somebody sitting there doing research, that you could be actively engaged in the research while also teaching others about the site history too. So those were great experiences for me. I would definitely do them again if I had to do it all over again, because they were a great foundational experience for me, and what led me on to further my career in museum work.
Oh, it sounds great. It sounds like you had a lot of opportunities to, get some serious,
Yes.
from brown recluses to like,
Oh my
being in charge
God.
of collections and that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially when you find a brown recluse trap that you think they're dead and they're not when you pick it up.
Harrowing. Thanks, Candace. That's really interesting. Thank you.
And I gotta say, I wouldn't have found those two opportunities if it wasn't for one Pat Thomas right here on the screen, because he was the one who told me about the internships and also the job at Angel Mounds too. So thank you, Dr. Thomas. Oh, they're down 2.5 employees. Oh, wow. Besides Mike. Oh my gosh. I didn't realize they were down that far now. Goodness. Oh, I knew Mike was managing several sites now though. Ugh, that's a lot. My goodness.
Budget cuts.
I mean, when I worked for the state of Indiana, that was when they were shutting sites down left and right. And they were talking about charging admission, which I know they do now. But that was a rough year that I worked for the site. That was one of the reasons why I didn't continue working for the state of Indiana as well, because of their budget had passed. Oh, one person at Historic New Harmony. Oh, they used to have many more than that there. Wow. Oh, nice.
Well, thank you. I think if you were here, we'd all be applauding for you.
You're welcome. Thank you
So just imagine you hear that.
I imagine it. I can also hear a cat scratching at a door behind me, so I'll imagine that's the applause.
Let me in.
They're like, why is this door shut? This has been shut entirely too long, human.
Well, thank you. I really appreciated this. This has been really interesting.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having me. And again, if anybody has any questions, I will furiously chat, type my email address in the chat box, shoot me an email. If you're in town in BloomingtonNormal, come check my museum out. I have it on good authority that I know someone who can take you to our dome. It's a pretty cool climb. You get to sign your name up there too if you come.
Now you're selling it. Okay.
Yeah, I'll sell it. Yeah.
All right, thanks, Candace.
Thank you so much. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you.